Hello again, everybody. This is Ed with another episode of Call Me Mr. Broadstreet. So this week, what I am reviewing is the Live Aid DVD set. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll. So the Live Aid DVD set was released around 2005. Now, this is right here. Let that focus in for a second. A little bit tougher to come by nowadays. I know there's different clips that are out there online with Live Aid. And of course, as a lot of folks out there know, the most obvious Beatles connection is that Paul McCartney did play July 13th, 1985 at Wembley Stadium in London to close out the London show. Now, a little bit of you might find interesting trivia from that day. So the story goes something like this. Bob Geldof basically organized Live Aid, gets all these different rock stars, Led Zeppelin, The Who, some of the Rolling Stones, not all of them were able to appear. He gets Queen, The Pretenders, Elvis Costello, quite a varied, just varied amount of acts. And really, the seminal music event, even topping Woodstock in my own view, if I was going to pick one musical event that defines rock and roll, this would be it. So, Paul says to Bob Geldof, well, I really don't have a band. I don't have a band together. Bob says, that's all right. You could just perform on your own. Just perform one song. Well, the song that Paul performed that night was Let It Be. Now, on the DVD, what you see is sort of an accident and sort of a magical moment. What happened was that Queen had just finished up their performance, and they had the best performance of that day. Hands down, in history, it has gone down as the defining performance. I can't argue against that. No matter how much I may love Paul or anything Beatles related, or even, Rolling Stones, members of the Rolling Stones on the American side, or Phil Collins or Sting or whomever, Queen really owned that event, that moment. U2 would probably be a close second when I revisit this DVD. But the story goes that one of the technicians for Queen, when they were done with their set, accidentally pulls the plug for Paul's microphone. Well, Paul goes on and he starts performing Let It Be at a grand white piano and just kind of looking over and thinking, okay, well, he says later that, I couldn't hear it over the audio, but it must be just coming great through the television, right? Well, they realize pretty quickly that the sound's really not going out for the first half of the song. So kind of a magical moment really happens when what happens is that David Bowie, Bob Geldof, Pete Townsend, and Alison Moyet all walk on the stage singing Let It Be with Paul. Very magical moment, kind of helping to prop him up, just grabbing some microphones, singing the chorus of Let It Be. They restore the sound for the broadcast for Paul's performance, and so that's what audiences actually got to see that particular day when it was simulcast live around the world. No pressure there, right? So what happened later was that the very next day, Paul actually did go into the studio to re-record the vocals for Let It Be if they decided to use it for a later date. So contrary to any type of internet rumors that you might have heard, he didn't record this 20 years later for the DVD set. What happened is they took that recording from the next day, from July 14th, they took that audio, put it onto the performance that you're seeing on this Let It Be, not Let It Be, I'm sorry, think of the song Let It Be, just like with the Get Back project. Anyways, with Let It Be from the Live Aid performance. Really, again, just a seminal event. It's bringing together rock of a couple different generations. I mean, of course, you've got also Bob Dylan, Mick Jagger, Tina Turner, the aforementioned acts that I said earlier, Tom Petty, Pretenders, Hall & Oates, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Not young. He was part of it, but kind of a separate part of the billing. Just a lot of different people. Definitely part of the festivities for that day. And again, just as a child of the 80s, I don't remember watching the concert in real time. I probably saw clips from it later. Now, I could have sworn one of my folks maybe had part of it on in the background, but let's not forget, that was a long day. That was a long event. London is still 5 hours ahead of the East Coast, so by the time they would have started, if they started at, noon or 1 o'clock or something like that, it's early morning here in the United States. And again, by the time London wrapped up, you have Philadelphia also wrapping up. Interesting little background with Philadelphia. I've understood that New York was actually supposed to be the venue, but they couldn't get the permits, and that's why you get London and Philadelphia instead of London and New York, which would be the obvious choice. So again, it's just really nice to have. I think this is a good set of music. You certainly get a lot of the 80s acts. You get as much as possible that was filmed. I know that the organizers had said to a bunch of different outlets that day that they didn't want the footage to actually be saved. They wanted it erased. Well, some of the TV broadcasters listened, and some didn't, thank goodness. They said, no, we're going to keep this in our archives and keep it as is. So there's definitely some missing footage from that day. I'm sure there's a lot of tape broadcasts or probably things online that you may have seen that sort of fill in some of the missing gaps from the official release. But really, as far as Paul's performance of Let It Be, nice enough, good, it's competent. Again, a little bit of studio trickery, if you will, but obviously for what happened with the performance itself. There was the news report around that time that somehow Paul, George, and Ringo were going to reunite, and Julian Lennon was going to join them. Well, that didn't happen, and I'm kind of glad it didn't. I mean, it would have been nice to see Paul, George, and Ringo together. That really wouldn't happen until about 10 years later with the Anthology project. Julian, as good as he is, as talented as he is, I mean, it's not John. It's not the same. So, in a way, kind of glad it didn't happen, although that would have definitely been a watershed moment. Probably no complaints, but, in the end, it's probably best that it didn't happen in those times, in those circumstances, at least. That's just kind of my thought on it. But again, just really good. If you can find it, I know the prices on eBay might be through the roof in some instances. But again, just really wonderful to have. I think it's essential for any music library. As I've said near the top of this, it's just very much the essential defining moment. Yes, over Woodstock, you heard me say it, Woodstock, as important as it was, this definitely is a plus. I know Woodstock came before. George's concert for Bangladesh in 1971, that certainly paved the way for charity concerts like this. Also a very seminal, very star-studded event in and of itself. But again, if I'm just picking that one event, this is that one event. This culminates everything. You've got the 60s legacy acts performing at this concert. You've got the up-and-comers. I think there's one clip where, funny enough, I think that the Thompson twins are doing the Beatles song, cover the Beatles song Revolution. And I think somewhere Madonna's on backing vocals. Now think about that for a minute. The Thompson twins at that moment, sort of still bigger in sales and stature than Madonna, who certainly is a musical icon. Or, just trying to think of other moments as well. There's certainly, the appeal for donations, of course, to the Live Aid cause. Now, whether that actually did everything it was intended to, that's probably another subject for another day. Certainly, a lot of people's hearts, I think, were in the right place. But actually getting the aid to folks can be a tricky matter. Just my view on it. But certainly a memorable musical event, something that has gone down in rock and roll history. Again, just seeing all the amazing footage from that day. Certainly kind of seeing the fashions too. You're seeing the 80s fashions and people thinking, wow, I look so cool that day. And I wonder, what does some of the audience think that they look like then compared to now when they rewatch the footage, whether it's from this set or whether it's from clips online or something like that. I've often wondered that. And I'd like to get some comments as well. Were any of you out there? Were any of you at either of the Live Aid concerts? I'd love to hear some of your memories down below in the comments, of course. So that's really about it. But just again, a very essential set. Pick it up if you can. Thank you for the support. We'll keep going with more reviews, interviews, everything like that for all the shows that are coming up. And that's it. So just be safe out there, everybody. And please make sure to give a thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you're enjoying the channel. And I'll see everybody next week. Bye.